Coming up on Marriage Today with Jimmy and Karen.
When I say depending on God, I'm not talking about an ethereal thing or just saying it. I'm talking about when you're hurt, when you're mad, when you're empty, when you're frustrated, when you feel lonely, when all those things, you turn to God. You don't turn on your spouse. You don't turn to something else. You turn to God and you trust Him with that need in your life. In a study, 93% of Americans said that they have a dream for a lasting, stable relationship. People haven't lost the dream for marriage, but many have lost hope. Lasting love is not just for a lucky few. Success can happen for everyone. Today we're discussing the secret of having a lifelong love. In this session, I want to talk to you about a dynamic that's very common in relationships. It's a sprint mentality versus a marathon mentality. When we get married, when we meet each other, we typically are in a sprint mode rather than a marathon mode. Marriage is a marathon. My mom and dad married for 61 years. You can't sprint that long. 70 pounds ago and 50 years ago, I used to run track. And so, when I ran track, the sprinters, you could go quick for a short distance. But the marathoners had a completely different mentality. And so many people today get married in a sprint. And what they find is that everything's passionate, everything's wonderful, everything's incredible right before it crashes. But the marathon mentality says it's not what we can make happen, it's what we can keep happening. What can we keep happening for 61 years? What can we keep happening for the rest of our lives, rather than what can we make happen for a few months or a few years, while we're falling in love and while we're securing the relationship or something like that. And then the thing falls apart. Marriage is like two rivers that come together. When you're dating, you're like parallel rivers. You're adjoining each other. You're examining each other. You think you know each other. But when you get married, it's like two rivers that come together, and there's the immediate crashing, just the personalities, the different people, the different desires, whatever you want to say, personas that come together, and there's a lot of turbulence, there's a lot going on. But what happens is the longer you're married, God's way, in the marathon mentality, the more you become one, the more it becomes peaceful, it becomes joyful. And I'm saying you absolutely can have a marriage that gets better and better and better, and you can have a marriage that lasts for the rest of your life. You've got to get out of the sprint mentality, and you've got to get out of the fear mentality. When you're operating in fear, it will make your fears come true. But when you're operating in faith, it will make your dreams come true. And so a lot of people, when Karen and I married, we were full of fear, and we had a sprint mentality. And so we almost divorced. It was by the grace of God that we made it. Now, this is a very, very important question. What is the source of your love? When you say you love someone, what is the source of that? Now, again, most of us have never thought about this, but I want you to think about it. And when you ask a person that's in love, they're married, they're in love, what fuels your passion for your marriage? What fuels your love for your spouse? The typical answers are passion, chemistry. We just have great chemistry. We're soulmates. That's kind of a big phrase today. Sexual attraction. We're best friends. We enjoy being together, all the above or whatever. And so those are the answers. But life happens. Conflict, children, finances, job stress, hurts from our past, temptation and sins, mistakes, failures, hurtful words, taxes, bills, illness, in-laws, the devil, the world. All of that happens to us, and it drains our batteries. All of that's going to happen. Again, the marathon mentality says we have got to run this race in such a way is that we can endure whatever's coming. The sprinters don't think like that. The sprinters have a completely different mentality. And a lot of people who fail in marriage, they're sprinters who don't have a resource deep enough, a lasting resource to fuel their love long term. Karen and I didn't. When we got married, we got married with the best of intentions, but one day I woke up and I was out of love. I didn't love Karen anymore. And if someone said, "Do you love your wife?" I wouldn't have said it probably. I would have pretended. But I didn't love Karen anymore. I thought I'd made a mistake. She was the enemy. Karen was my enemy. And here was the thought in my mind. If she would change, our marriage would be healed. If she would change, our marriage would be so much better and our marriage would be healed. And a lot of people, a lot of you watching right now, wherever you're watching, is you have that thought in your mind. I can just tell you, I was wrong. I had a sprinter's mentality. I had a fear-based mentality. I was deceived. And I absolutely believed that I had married the wrong woman. I had made a mistake. And now I was stuck in a bad marriage. And so let me tell you the two wrong sources of love. And these are the two most common sources of love. So I'm asking you, what is your source of love? If you're going to make it in marriage, if you're going to make it for the next 61 years, like my mom and dad, you're going to make it for another 40 or 50 years. Okay. What is your source of love? Here's the most common source of love for people who get married. My spouse. My spouse is my source of love. You make me feel good. I like the way that I feel when I'm around you. So Karen was my source of love. And what that means is I can't love you more than you're loving me. Now, I tell the story about when I played golf. I golfed all the time. I worked all the time. And it almost ruined our marriage. And the night that our marriage was healed, I gave up golf. But let me tell you about why I played golf. Let me tell you about just my emotional disposition at that time. I got saved a week before we got married, so I was a Christian. But I didn't know how to trust in God. I didn't know that. So Karen was my source of love. I wanted Karen to meet my needs. And so when we got married, she couldn't. Because only God can meet your deepest needs. See, people can't meet your deepest needs. Only God can. And when you don't trust God to meet your deepest needs, you automatically transfer the expectation of that on your spouse, and your marriage is set up for failure. It's a codependent relationship. In other words, your source is just simply the wrong source. It's not God, it's your spouse. So my source was Karen. Well, I need acceptance. That's one of the things I need. I need identity to feel like I'm somebody. I mean, I have all those needs, but here's the way Karen made me feel. She made me feel rejected. Because love is our greatest need, rejection is our greatest wound and our greatest fear. My greatest need is love, true love. And my greatest rejection, or my greatest fear then, it's true for everyone. Well, so we were married, and I remember walking through the house, and I would say or do something, and what I was trying to do is to get a certain response from Karen. A smile, a look, her to jump on top of me and, passionately kiss me or whatever I was looking for. Well, it didn't happen. And it made me feel rejected. Now, I'm not the kind, most men are not this way. I'm not the kind of a person that when I feel rejected, I say, I feel so rejected. My feelings are just so hurt. Karen, you just devastated me. I didn't do that. When I get hurt, this is what I do. I set my jaw. I always tell them I'm getting upset because my jaw goes out. So I do. So Karen, I would be walking through the house and I would say, hey Karen, how are you? And she'd kind of, ignore me or walk off. She wasn't being bad. There's nothing wrong with her. And I would think to myself, she doesn't think I'm attractive. She didn't like me. I don't know what I did, but and I felt rejected. And I'd go get my golf clubs and go golfing. Because on the golf course, I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel that way with my friends. But when I came home, I was so raw with the feeling of rejection. Okay. Well, so Karen was my source. She made me, there's nothing wrong with her. But because she became my source, I could only love her as much as she was loving me. I felt disappointment. I felt frustration. She got pregnant. Life happened, job stress, all the kind of things that began to happen that puts pressure on both of you, regardless of how hard you're trying. And so finally, I just turned my heart away from her. This is what I did. Because she was my source, I turned my heart away from her, and then I became angry and verbally hostile toward her. I punished her. My way of trying to change her was very ungodly, as I began to be verbally aggressive toward her and beat her down verbally, and that led us to the brink of divorce. The night that we almost separated. Then there's me. There's Jimmy. And me being the source of my love. Now, I want to say something to you about your spouse and God. I want you to listen to what I'm about to say. Because this is a profound point. God made you in your mother's womb. God made your spouse in their mother's womb. And there's only one person who perfectly loves your spouse, and that's God. I do not perfectly love Karen Evans. I love her as much as I can, but I don't perfectly love her. But God loves her perfectly, permanently, and powerfully. My God is constantly in love with my wife, and He loves her perfectly for who she is because He made her in her mother's womb. He loves her permanently, and He'll never change His mind about His love for her, regardless of how mad I am. I've tried to get God to be mad at Karen. I've just tried to sick God on Karen many times. He won't do that, and He loves her powerfully, which means 1 Corinthians 13 says love never fails. God's love is not human love. God's love can solve any problem. God's love is supernaturally powerful to do what a human can never do. So I've got, if I'm my source, Galatians chapter 5 says this: the deeds of the flesh. Paul says there's only two sources of love: your flesh or the Spirit. And the Apostle Paul says if you walk in your flesh, here's what's going to happen: jealousy, envy, divisions, factions, outbursts of anger, immorality, all those things. In other words, that's what you can produce out of you. But the fruit of the Spirit, listen, the fruit of the Spirit is love. That's God's perfect love. Joy, peace, patience, goodness, kindness, long-suffering, self-control. That's the person that I want to be married to. That's the person that my spouse wants to be married to, and it's free. So listen to me. So what is your source of love? Okay. What is your source of love? It cannot be my spouse. If they're the best person on the planet, they cannot be my source of love. I hope you feel passion. I hope you have good chemistry. I hope you're sexually attracted to each other. I hope you're soulmates and all that. It's not enough. It's enough for a sprint. It's enough for a sprint. We're sexually attracted. We just love each other. We're soulmates. Go, have your sprint, and then you'll fall down exhausted and your love will be over. If your source is a person, you'll fail. I promise you will fail. I promise you'll get your heart broken. I promise you'll be devastated by marriage. If you trust in yourself, you think too highly of yourself. I just can't do it. I cannot love with that kind of love. Well, what's the answer? God. The only source that can fuel a lifetime of love is the person who perfectly, permanently, and powerfully loves my wife and myself. So when I wake up in the morning, here's what I do. This is Karen and me. When I woke up this morning, this is what I did. When she woke up this morning, this is what she did. And we do it every day. This is our marriage. I sit before the Lord, and when I pray, and here's what I say: God, I can't love Karen today. I can't love Karen today without you. I can't. And I know life is going to happen. I know that we're going to have conversations, issues. I'm going to walk through the house and I'm going to want her to smile at me and tell me what a hunk I am and jump on top of me, and it's not going to happen. And when that happens, I need the grace not to call her something bad. I need the grace not to take it personally. I always took it so personally. And Karen was just walking through the house thinking about 1,000 things, and she'd give me a look. Well, she was stressed out about all the things she had to do, but I took that personally. Lord, I need you to fill me with your love, with your joy, with your peace, with your patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I need your strength inside of me today with Karen and every other person that I come in contact with. I don't trust myself, and I can't depend on people. Listen to what I just said. I don't trust myself, and I can't depend on people. When I began to turn to God and trust in Him, and what I mean by that is It has to be a relationship. It has to be real. When I say depending on God, I'm not talking about an ethereal thing or just saying it. I'm talking about when you're hurt, when you're mad, when you're empty, when you're frustrated, when you feel lonely, when all those things, you turn to God. You don't turn on your spouse. You don't turn to something else. You turn to God and you trust Him with that need in your life. Well, I turned to God. When my life changed, when our marriage changed, I turned to God. Let me say, our 4 deepest needs are acceptance, identity, security, and purpose. And acceptance means to be really loved constantly, perfectly, for who I really am and not to have to perform for it. I don't want to have to perform for it. Okay. When I began to experience God's love, I no longer felt rejected when Karen didn't give me the response I needed. And this was the most dramatic change that I saw in our relationship. I would be walking, it's true today, it's true in our relationship today, because Karen's a wonderful wife, but she's a person, just like me. I'm a human being. And when Karen responds to me in a certain way, and this began to happen as soon as I began to turn to God, and I released Karen from the expectation of being my source. And I didn't trust myself anymore because I saw what I was capable of. The meanness and the pettiness that I was capable of. And when I began to turn to God, I remember the first time that Karen made a response to me that before would have made me feel rejected. And she made this response toward me. And I remember thinking, she's having a bad day, but there's nothing wrong with me. It felt so good. Because you know what my response was? To go help her. Rather than getting my feelings hurt and set my jaw, like, I'll get you back. I don't care what you cook tonight, it's not good. And I can't wait to tell you. Is this any good? Yeah. Now, next time you ask me if you look fat in that, you're going to get it, sister. I go, well, I don't know. Yeah. It feels so good not to depend on people. It feels so good. It feels so good to be able to love a person who's not loving you with God's love. When I'm mad at Karen, when I'm upset at Karen, and I go pray, God never takes my side. And I've tried to get Him to do it many times. I'm just, God, strike her. Remember the Bible. You struck people in the Bible. Strike her. But when I go and pray, you know what God does? He fills me with His love for her, because His love is perfect, permanent, and powerful. He'll never take an offense against her. He'll never reject her. He'll never stop believing in her. Ever. So if I try to get her to meet that need, if I try to meet my need myself, I've seen what I can do. But every time I turn to God, He fills me with a supernatural, perfect love for Karen. And we've been married 40 years, and I love that sister. And I'm going to be married to her for the rest of my life because of God. You can clap. Go ahead. And I know good and well that a lot of you have had your heart broken. And like me. You've had your heart broken. You've been through difficult relationship after difficult relationship. And for some of you, as I'm sitting here talking, there's a light bulb that came on and said, I've just been trusting in people. I've been trusting in myself. I haven't been trusting in God. It's the number one question. Will your love last for a lifetime? If God is your source, absolutely. Well, that teaching, I believe, is one of the most important teachings I've ever brought, because, it just helps you to understand, the way God created relationships and how to depend on each other in an appropriate manner, but really how to depend on God, because He's the perfect source of lifelong love. And He always loves us, and He always loves our spouse. He doesn't have moods. He doesn't, go through changes and things like that. So He's stable. But right now, for your gift of any amount, we want to get you this full message, The Secret of Lifelong Love, so you can hear it in its entirety and listen to it again and again, or give it to a friend or a family member. But also right now, you heard this message today, part of this message, on the secret of lifelong love, but we have a full 4-part seminar series called Lifelong Love Affair. Now, we have a book called Lifelong Love Affair and a CD and DVD series, but they're different. There are some things that are the same in them, but the series and the book are different. So right now, for your gift of $60 or more, we want to send you both the CD series and the book, Lifelong Love Affair. And for your gift of $90 or more, we'll send you the 4-part DVD series with a book and a bonus, The Mountaintop of Marriage. This helps you to have a vision retreat, which is transforming all by itself. To understand love, to understand each other, and to be married to your best friend, and also to have the sexual intimacy and emotional intimacy that you desire. We want to get you these resources, and here's how you can get them.
Transform your marriage into a lifelong love affair. For your gift of $60 or more, we'll send you Jimmy's latest CD series and book. For your gift of $90 or more, we'll send you the DVD series, book, and the Mountaintop of Marriage Vision Retreat Guidebook. In this inspiring series, Jimmy reveals how to stay in love for the rest of your life, how to have vision for your marriage, and how to have God's blessing on your relationship. For your gift of any amount, we'll send you the CD single, The Secret of Lifelong Love.
And I'm saying you absolutely can have a marriage that gets better and better and better, and you can have a marriage that lasts for the rest of your life.
No matter where your marriage is today, you can have a lifelong love affair. Experience Jimmy's latest series today.
This program today, and we're talking about lifelong love and how our marriage can last a lifetime, and how God made marriage to be a marathon and not a sprint. And you see in our world today so many people, and I feel so sorry for those people, because Karen and I were exactly the same way when we first met and married. And they fall in love, and everything's just so phenomenal, and they're just, absolutely head over heels in love with each other, and all that's great. But then you see where months or a few years later, maybe they're bitter, they're angry, they're out of love, or maybe they've even divorced by then. We have a photographer we know really well, and he said that increasingly he'll go do wedding photos, for people getting married, and before he delivers the photographs, the couple is already divorced. And this is an example of the sprint mentality that says, we just have this passionate, incredible relationship, but it just doesn't last. Listen, God made marriage to last. He made your marriage to be a marathon where you can stay in love. But listen, the source of that love is God. You can only get so much out of your spouse and so much out of yourself. But God is the eternal source of love. And one of the things that I said in this teaching is God's the only person that always loves your spouse and really loves all of us perfectly and permanently and powerfully. I want you to think about that for just a minute. God always is going to love your spouse. Now, your feelings may come or go. Your spouse's feelings may come or go. And really, truly, the reason I believe that so many people get into the sprint and then they end up so disillusioned is because they just run out of gas. The source of their love was the wrong source. And it can only last so long. When you're tapping into the wrong well, it's just going to last for so long. You put that straw in a shallow bottle, you're not going to be able to suck on it very long until it goes dry. God is an eternal source that will never run dry. And He's always 24 hours a day stable and present and gracious and loving. And when Karen and I got married, I got so disillusioned because I just wasn't getting out of her what I wanted, even though I was head over heels madly in love with her a few years earlier. And we were in that sprint of passion and intimacy and all those kinds of things. We were out of love. We were on the brink of divorce. The only reason when Karen and I are asked the secret of our, 40 years of marriage, our answer is God. God is, and we love each other very much, but it's God in the middle of us. It's God in the center of our relationship that makes it work. Now listen, you may be a married couple watching this right now and you're saying, we made that mistake and we're going to correct that. Good for you. But did you know that you can make that decision all by yourself? Even if you're the only person trying in your marriage, once you turn to God and you make Him your source, your marriage is going to change. When you change, your marriage is going to change. So don't become overwhelmed or discouraged. Don't turn your heart away from your marriage. Turn your heart toward God and turn your heart toward your spouse, but make God your primary source and get out of that sprint and get into the marathon, and marriage will work for you. You know, we have a very special group of people, and the only reason that we're able to come to you right now is because we have partners, financial partners. We don't have advertisers that advertise with us and give us money. This is a Christian program, and the only way we're able to keep coming back to you is the people who stand with us financially. And we have monthly partners called our Rock Solid Partners. And these are precious people who give to the ministry every month. And for that, they get a resource no one else gets. We want you, Karen and I are asking you to stand with us financially and become Rock Solid Partners. And for that, we want to give you this special resource. Here's how you can get it.
Everywhere you look, marriages and families are under attack. What God intended as a fundamental blessing to society has been reduced to a coin flip, with 50% of marriages ending in divorce. Children are being raised in broken homes. Young men and women are questioning the value and purpose of marriage. These are our neighbors, our friends, our family. We are all affected by this stark reality. But it doesn't have to be this way. God did not create marriage to fail. And regardless of how dark, how difficult it may seem, with the right teaching, the right training, the right commitment, every marriage has a 100% chance of success. Marriage Today is committed to sharing this message of hope with men and women around the world, providing a wealth of biblically based resources through seminars, CD and DVD series, television broadcasts, and much more. Join us by becoming a Rock Solid Partner today. Together, we can help shape the future of marriage in America and across the globe. Choose the partnership level that's right for you. For $14, $28, or $56 per month, you can get the tools you need to succeed in marriage, including online access to the Dream Marriage Library, CD and DVD lessons shipped to your door, and exclusive partner perks. And if you become a Rock Solid Partner at the $28 or $56 per month level, you'll receive the Every Great Marriage video series and the Mountaintop of Marriage as our special gifts. Join us as we work to rebuild the foundation of family. Become a Rock Solid Partner today.
Thank you for watching Marriage Today with Jimmy and Karen. Support Marriage Today with your best gift and receive the series Lifelong Love Affair. Follow your interests and get social by connecting with Jimmy and Karen and the Ministry of Marriage Today on Twitter. Experience release and freedom from the pain of your past with the life-changing book When Life Hurts by Jimmy Evans. Visit whenlifehurtsbook.com. And don't forget, become a Rock Solid Partner and receive the Dream Marriage Library. There's a Rock Solid Partner level to fit every need.
This program is made possible by the generous support of our faithful partners.